Welcome to Standard Theory. In the previous segment we discussed supersocial communication in absolute thinking and the physical response of gapping. So far we have covered vertical thinking on the Z0 scale as well as the entire scale. From here we can discuss the Z scale or the scale of post-intelligent impulse. In this segment we will present the main communication types within the Z scale. From there we can look more closely at each one. Once the gap is reached on the R scale, the physiological response that is experienced there will change the capacity and type of thinking that is available. From the gap, the thinking and capacity will move from the R scale onto the Z scale since the process of gapping theoretically disallows the use of intelligent, additive processing in favor of vertical thinking. There are several types of communication within vertical thinking on the Z scale. These include rolling communication, metaphysical communication, impulsive communication, compulsive communication and compulsive-impulsive communication. Each of these types measures a certain dynamic within vertical thinking. In intelligence, the main dynamic is that of additive or high-energy processing. On the Z scale, the dynamic concerns low-energy or impulsive processing. The gap from the R scale occurs between positive 117 and 118 characteristics of communication. The gap results in an inversion of several characteristics. From the gap, the constructive range of communication begins at negative 180 characteristics on the Z scale. As discussed previously, the R scale concerns the characteristics from positive 1 to positive 117. After gapping, the Z scale begins at negative 180 characteristics. This point of negative 180 characteristics can be referred to as the landing zone after the gap, also referred to as the turnaround. At the turnaround, a person will use one of two main processes. These processes have been discussed previously as the intelligent or impulsive processing, similar to a directive or a deferral. These processes essentially associate the communication being experienced with a high-energy or a low-energy process. On the Z scale, though, the tendency is to continue low-energy processing since the capacity for high-energy processing has become limited. For this reason, the constructive range of communication on the Z scale should begin at negative 180 and move in a more negative direction to negative 181, negative 182, negative 183 and so on. The constructive range from the turnaround in a negative direction is negative 180 to negative 197. This range contains several communication types. The normal operating range or most constructive version of communication on the Z scale is the range from negative 180 to negative 185. This range is referred to as metaphysical communication. At the processing of the interval of negative 185 there is another observable physiological response referred to as the vertical gap. This change corresponds to the end of metaphysical communication and the beginning of impulsive communication, with the impulsive communication ranging from negative 185 to negative 191 characteristics. From 191 to 197 the range is referred to as compulsive communication. From negative 197 and beyond the range is referred to as compulsive-impulsive communication. These processes from negative 180 to negative 197 are the low-energy, impulsive processes in the negative direction. When at the turnaround negative 180, though, there is the capacity to apply high-energy associations with a communication cycle. This pseudo-additive or partial high-energy process would move the cycle characteristic in a positive direction, meaning that the communication would move from negative 180 to negative 178, negative 176 and so on. There is a capacity to continue this process all the way through to the horizontal gap at negative 118 characteristics. This range of communication from negative 180 to negative 118 is referred to as rolling communication. These are the main constructive thinking types associated with the Z scale, which, in total, range from negative 118 to negative 197 with the turnaround of negative 180 somewhere in between. Again, the types are rolling communication from negative 118 to negative 180, the turnaround at negative 180, metaphysical communication from negative 180 to negative 185, impulsive communication from negative 185 to negative 191, compulsive communication from negative 191 to negative 197 and compulsive impulse from negative 197 and beyond. The Z scale or scale of post-intelligent impulse measures and keeps track of each of these communication types. In the following segments we can discuss each of the communication types in more detail. Please join me in the next segment to discuss metaphysical communication on the Z scale.